trips.
We are going to take you live to the White House now, where a press briefing is underway amid questions about Joe Biden's leadership. Let's listen in live.
And on top of that, there was obviously the jet lag, as you just asked about, and also he had a cold. And you all heard directly, you heard from him during the debate. He had a hoarse voice. Many of you reached out to me and my team and some other members of the White House asking what was going on. We confirmed that he had a cold. And so I think those two things, continuing obviously to do his duties as commander-in-chief, as the president. And so I think some of you here in this room can certainly relate to, you know, what could happen when you're having an important moment and you're not feeling well, and also you wish you could have done better. And so he took ownership. I think that's important. And he's going to continue to make a strong case for his agenda, and that's what you're going to see. And he was given an explanation, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to get that out there and for people to hear directly from him, as he has been doing since Friday of last week.
It just seems like there, I know you're calling it an explanation, not an excuse, but it does seem like there are new excuses since the debate of what went wrong there.
I would say I don't think it's a new excuse. I think some of your colleagues reached out to us about the schedule. Some of your colleagues asked if the schedule was too strenuous, or was it because of the jet lag, and so we are laying out and explaining exactly what happened. You heard from the president, you've heard from me, and it was, you know, indeed a schedule where, you know, the president traveled 6 time zones forward to G7 in Italy, 9 time zones back to LA, and 3 time zones forward again to DC. That's something that one of the print pooler on that day laid out for all of you and those who read the pool notes. And on top of that, he did have a cold. So it is an explanation. I don't think it is an addition. I don't think it's, we certainly don't want to explain this away. But you all asked me for an explanation yesterday. The president gave that directly yesterday to his supporters. He wanted to make sure, knowing that all of you would get that information as he's speaking to his supporters last night. Sure.
You mentioned all the calls that he has made in your topper. Why wasn't he doing that on Friday? And why wasn't he doing this sort of damage control? Why was he waiting to do that until middle of this week?
I mean, look, I was asked a similar question by one of your colleagues yesterday, and look, you know, the president obviously right after the debate, he visited 4 states in 2.5 days, gave a couple of remarks. He met with supporters, whether at the Waffle House or in Atlanta at a watch party, or in North Carolina where there were hundreds of supporters there in Raleigh. And so he was busy dealing with his schedule, and also speaking directly and engaging with his supporters, and then spend time with his family. I think what's important is that he has done this outreach. He's having these conversations. It is important to him to do so. And the folks that I laid out that he spoke to some of them have been his colleagues. Some of them have been elected officials that he's known for some time. Obviously, Leader Jeffries is a new relationship that he has, someone that he obviously respects, and so, you know, it is. I think it's important to note that they were strong conversations. That's something that the president told me and my team directly moments ago. He was walking around, and we happened to see the president, and he said they were strong conversation. And by the way, he looks great. The vice president's great, and they are ready to continue working on behalf of the American people. Okay, so.
Thank you, Karine.
Hi. Is President Biden considering stepping down?
Absolutely not. And you heard, I believe, directly from the campaign as well.
Given the groundswell of concern from fellow Democrats, from donors, from supporters, doesn't he owe it to the American public to reflect on whether he should step down?
I mean, look, very much into Sung-Min's question and my answer to her question, where he had an opportunity to talk to supporters. He's done it a couple times at this point and laid out what happened on that night. Talked about how he understands, and it was not his best night. He understands that it is fair for people to ask that question. But we cannot forget his record and what he's been able to do. We cannot forget how he has been able to deliver for the American people for almost 4 years. That matters too. And he has the most historic record administration the most in modern politics, and that should matter. And he wants to continue to do that work. And, you know, a lot of what's on his agenda is very much popular with majority of the American people, whether it's continuing to build a strong economic policies. He's done that. Creating new jobs. He's done that. 15 million jobs. He wants to work on that and continue to do that. And so he wants to continue to deliver, expanding health care. All of these things he believes is important. Majority of Americans believe it's important. And his record, he wants to make sure that people do not forget about the record that he's been able to lay on behalf of the American people.
Is there anything, Karine, that would change his mind?
Look, I cannot lay out something that would change the president's mind. He has been very clear, and he's going to continue to build on the unprecedented record that he's been able to lay out for the American people. That's his focus right now.
Thank you.
Okay, Jack.
Thank you, Karine. What does the president do outside the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m.?
Well, you heard him speak to supporters yesterday outside of 4 p.m. You saw the president land in North Carolina in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock. What was he doing? He was greeting supporters, hundreds of supporters that showed up to cheer him on after the debate. You saw him speaking at 9 o'clock or at night in New York in front of supporters. So he's been pretty much out there after the hours of 4 p.m. and before 10 a.m. for sure. And so that has been something he has consistently done over the past couple of days for sure, for certain.
Have an afternoon nap every day.
Let me be very clear about this. This is a president that wakes up every morning and puts the American people first. That's what he does. He does that every single day. That is his focus. I am not going to speak to sources out there, unnamed sources out there. That's not what I'm going to speak to. I'm going to speak to what I know, what this president does, and how he is committed to the work of the president, of the commander-in-chief. And his record clearly lays that out and speaks to it. And that's what he's going to continue to do. The American people first, and delivering for them.
Can you also clarify Sungmin's question?
Sure.
I mean, how is it that the president was still tired 12 days after returning from Europe, had a cold, but then went to the Waffle House, and then the following day staged such a huge comeback that he gave those North Carolina remarks? Like, help us understand.
Have you had a cold before?
Of course I've had a
Okay,
cold before.
so you probably, well, come on, Jackie. Let's be very, let's be.
12 days after he returned, though.
But
and
you
he
also,
blamed jet lag yesterday.
Hold on a second. There's a cold, there's a jet lag. You combine that. He continues to work for the American people day in and day out, around the clock. Things happen. And the cold thing is something that you all pointed out during his debate. We didn't even point that out. You all pointed out when you heard his voice being hoarse, because he knew he had to push through. He knew he has to power through. That's what presidents do. If you care about this country and you don't care about yourself, you care about the American people, you care about delivering for this country, you care about how you're going to continue to work every day in and day out, you push through. We've all do that.
Because all these Democrats
We've
who are
all
saying
do
they want
that.
to see him,
But
it speaks to that.
But we didn't share that information ahead of time. You all asked what was going on, and then we shared that information. We didn't use that before the debate. You all asked, hey, is he under the weather? And we confirmed that he was under the weather. He pushed through. That's what this president does. He is going to continue to fight for the American people. So he pushed through it. I think anybody who does that, not just the president, should be commended. And he also said, you heard him say this on Friday, when you get knocked down, you get back up. That's what you saw.
Is there any discussion that if the president were to suspend his campaign, that he would also resign? Are there any discussions about the vice president assuming his duties?
Absolutely not. Go ahead, Kelly.
Does the president have a duty to review data, like polling information that's coming in, donor information, the fears and concerns or anxieties expressed by Democrats, does he have a duty to review what's happening now?
When you say a duty, can you say more about the duty
You're saying
piece?
that he's absolutely running.
Yeah. Well, he's saying that, and I'm sharing with you his view.
And we would invite the president to come here and tell us that directly.
Noted, Kelly.
But
He's awake.
that's inappropriate.
As you heard from your colleague, the president of the WHCA, that's inappropriate. Thank you, Kelly.
My question is, information is coming in, an assessment is happening within the party. Does he have a duty to review that? Has he closed the door on reviewing the data?
So I'm going to be really mindful, because obviously you're asking me about campaign numbers and data that's coming in. And look, what I will note is that this is a president that looks at everything, takes in all the information. It's important to him to do so. I don't want to get into hypotheticals here. That's not what I'm here to do. What I can say is, in this moment, we move forward on building on this unprecedented record that the president has been able to lay out for the American people, and that's going to be our focus. I don't want to get into hypotheticals. I don't want to get ahead into anything else.
It doesn't sound like closing the door to reviewing this over a period of time.
What I can say is the president is moving forward. He's moving forward as being president. He's moving forward with his campaign, as his campaign has been very, very clear about that. That's what I can speak to, and that's what I can say, and that is the president's focus. The president's focus is how does he continue to do that work, and anything else that we're hearing or that's being reported is absolutely false.
Is the president telling people he's evaluating the
Absolutely
race?
false. That is absolutely false. I saw that reporting. We were not given enough time to get back to that reporting, just a couple of minutes, and we asked the president. The president responded directly when asked about this question because we said that we would, and the president said it is absolutely false. That's coming directly from him.
What steps would the president be taking, or would you as a team plan to try to prevent another episode in public that would be deemed worrisome?
I would not call it an episode. I would call it we had a bad night, right? It was not his best night. He had a cold, he was jet lagged. You heard directly from the president about this. And when we get knocked down, when he gets knocked down, he gets right back up. And that's what I would focus on. The president continuing to be very steady and continuing to work for the American people.
But just to follow up on Kelly's question, do you think the president feels like these coming days are very critical for him, as you laid out all these events that he's going to be doing?
Yeah.
Are these events very important for him to show to the American people that he still has the ability to be the nominee?
I would say that this moment is critical, regardless of the debate or not. We are living in an important moment right now. Everything is at stake. And I got to be mindful, because this is all connected to what's happening in November. And I think any leader would say they always have to prove to themselves to their constituents, right? It is a day in and day out work. And yes, the president's going to have engagement. He's going to be out there speaking to the American people. Obviously, we mentioned Wisconsin. He's going to do an interview in Wisconsin as well. We talked about Pennsylvania. But the president was also out last week. Atlanta, North Carolina, New York, where he saw supporters. This is a president that has been consistently out there talking directly to the American people. He understands, as you all asked me about the economy and what people are feeling, he understands that they have to hear directly from him, and he has to continue to do that so that he can lay out his agenda. He can lay out what he wants to continue to do. It's always going to be part of the calculation, right, to continue to prove to the American people that he can continue to do the work and deliver on behalf of the American people.
And Jeff had the staff meeting
Yeah.
today. Can you just give us a rundown of really what he tried to get across? And is there a morale issue in the White House right now?
It's a fair question, and I do have a couple of things I want to say. As you just said, the Chief of Staff, Jeff Zients, did have an all-staff call. He wanted to gather the team across the building and acknowledge what the President said himself, right? that the last few days have been challenging. We've been very, very clear in acknowledging that. But we have had an extraordinary record to be proud of, and we know we have more work to do. The president says that all the time. He conveyed the importance of executing on our mission. He talked about the importance of coming together as a team and also having each other's backs. And so, look, he also said, which I think was really important, and I think every staff wants to hear, that the Chiefs of Staff door is open and is open to hearing directly from them any questions or any concerns. And, you know, I think that's what you do as a leader.
Thanks, Karine. If there are so many questions right now about whether President Biden can do this job, why are we not seeing the president out there every single day in an unscripted way without teleprompters?
Well, you're going to see him today, certainly, and I know you're asking about the teleprompter. You're going to see him tomorrow, right? 4th of July. He'll have an opportunity to welcome active duty military and their families, and certainly their loved ones here on the South Lawn, as he does every year. And I think that's going to be important. He'll be able to engage with them and thank them directly. And you'll see him in Wisconsin, and you'll continue to see him, obviously, in the upcoming weeks. Look, it is not unusual for a president to use a teleprompter. It isn't. It is not unusual. That is something that presidents have done in the past. I think what we also have to remember, and I'll keep saying this because I think it's important to not forget, that he has the strongest economic recovery in modern history. He has led a historic midterm win when everybody was talking about a red wave, and he's been able to defy that and deliver by being a leader, right? Obviously doing the midterms as a Democratic leader. And he's going to continue to work to get lower costs. And I think that matters. I think his record certainly matters. And you are going to see him, continue to see him, having interviews. He's going to do ABC, as you know, with George Stephanopoulos, one of your colleagues. That's not scripted. And he has done more than 40 interviews that have not been scripted. Interviews do not have a script this year alone. So you'll see him out there engaging with the American people, and I think that's important.
But again, we're now almost a week.
Okay, we've been listening to White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre reassure the public about U.S. President Joe Biden after last week's presidential debate, which she chalks up to, quote, a bad night, attributing that to jet lag and a cold.